Hello, this is Jack Thames, support volunteer and CERT trainer for Clackamas Fire District 1. This presentation is a review on disaster preparedness. We will cover CERT roles and responsibilities, elements of disasters, preparing for disasters, and kits that you should have put together. The objectives are to describe the functions of CERT, your role as a CERT volunteer, and to explain how CERT fits into the emergency preparedness structure in this community. We'll talk about the different kinds of hazards that you're most likely to face and some of their impacts. And then finally, we'll wrap up with preparing yourself, your family, and others in your community, including some information on emergency preparedness kits and family disaster plan. So what is the difference between an emergency and a disaster? In an emergency, you can call 911 and you'll get help. The local resources in their community will be able to handle it. In a disaster, there will most likely be no 911 to be able to call for help. Local resources will be overwhelmed. It's important to note that disasters can be either natural, technological, or man-made.
CCN News is interrupting your regular programming with this breaking news. I'm Kimberly Jacobson. A 9.0 earthquake centered off the coast of Oregon has just rocked the entire state. Experts say it's a Cascadia subduction zone earthquake, and here in Clackamas County, we are feeling the effects. In downtown Oregon City, 13 people are dead and many more injured after the Clackamas County Courthouse roof collapses on several packed courtrooms. Emergency workers are combing the rubble for survivors. Also downtown, the Oregon City Historic Elevator has stopped, and we have reports that 3 people are trapped inside. Motorists are abandoned on the Interstate 205 Oregon City Westland Bridge over the Willamette River. Earthquake damage has rendered the bridge impassable, and several cars are lodged in deep crevices. Rescue workers have more to contend with on Highway 99, where a landslide has ripped up the roadway a mile south of Oregon City and Highway 26. Several cars are buried in the mud, and rescue workers are having a hard time getting to them. Be advised that mudslides have also shut down Highway 99 at mileposts 49 and 50, and a partial tunnel collapse has shut down Highway 99E at McLaughlin Boulevard. A motorist is trapped in a large sinkhole near the Home Depot off of Beaver Creek Road. That sinkhole has closed down part of Washington Street. We are getting several reports of power outages from all over the county. A fire in a substation transformer has contributed to outages in Happy Valley, Johnson City, the city of Sandy, Government Camp, Eagle Creek, Estacada, Barton, River Grove, and Molalla. Calls are flooding 911 operators, many from elderly citizens needing help. We're getting word of several structural collapses all over Westland and Lake Oswego, including Westland High School, Willamette Grade School, and Tualatin Valley Fire Rescue Engine House 172. The schools are being evacuated, and there is no word yet on injuries or fatalities. Some juvenile offenders are taking advantage of this emergency situation. The Clackamas County Juvenile Department building is reporting damage. Officials there say it's no longer secure, and several inmates have escaped. We are getting reports of numerous fires in Oregon City. Both Pioneer Community Center and the Oregon City Retirement Center are ablaze at this time, and fire crews are trying to contain a 3-alarm industrial fire at the Blue Heron Paper Mill. Emergency officials are warning that aftershocks are possible, so be prepared. Turn off gas and stay away from damaged structures. If you're having an emergency that requires police, fire, or medical personnel, dial 911. For more information on the earthquake or the condition of family members, the county has set up a non-emergency line. That number is 503-655-8224. Stay tuned to the station for more updates on the 9.0 earthquake that just shook Oregon. We'll bring you the latest as it happens. For the Clackamas County Cable News Network, I'm Kimberly Jacobson.
So what do you think? Is it this realistic? Important to note that multiple emergencies throughout the jurisdiction. Incorrect information. That is something to be expected when there's a major disaster. For instance, Home Depot is not off of Beaver Creek Road, it's off of Highway 213. Also was noted in there that there was road damage on 99E south of Highway 26. Highway 26 is clear up at the Ross Island Bridge in Portland. Non-emergency phone numbers will be inaccessible. Phone systems in general will be down. Look, there are multiple transportation issues. You and emergency responders will not be able to get around. Keep in mind, this is going to be a region-wide event. There will be no mutual aid coming from other jurisdictions anytime soon. So what is CERT's role in a disaster? CERT bridges the gap between the disaster and what emergency services can provide. In this jurisdiction, CERT will be able to perform some of the emergency services functions based upon standard operating procedures that we have in place with Clackamas Fire District 1. Number one is to take care of yourself and your family and then assist neighbors during disasters. This is going to be the fill-in, the stopgap until emergency services can get to you and your community. And then finally, CERT can prepare their family and their community prior to those disasters. So as noted previously, CERT groups in North Clackamas County are auxiliary volunteers with Clackamas Fire District 1. Clackamas Fire District 1 provides oversight and insurance coverage for when we are deployed. CERT members are only going to deploy when either Clackamas Fire District 1 issues a call out or request for service, or this is a major disaster and there just is no communication possible. In that case, then CERT will deploy, take care of themselves and their family first, and then work with their neighbors in the immediate community. So what are some of the natural disasters that we could expect in this area? At the top of the list is the Cascadia earthquake. This is the earthquake that will be generated by the fault off of the Oregon coast that basically runs from Northern California all the way up along Vancouver Island in British Columbia. Second biggest is going to be a crustal earthquake due to one of the many faults that are local in our area here. And then a winter storm. As you all know, it doesn't take much snow to shut things down around here. Next most common, windstorms. We get those relatively frequently. Floods. We just recently had some down the Willamette Valley. Wildfires, that seems to become an every summer event now. And you all remember Mount St. Helens, that's the volcanic event. Mount Hood is also a volcano. So is Mount Tabor, Mount Scott. Landslides. We had some of those up Columbia River Gorge. We get them occasionally here in Portland as well. Extreme heat. Last June, we had 115 degrees. And then drought. We've been ongoing issue with that for a couple of years now. So recent natural hazards, flooding, winter snow and ice, wildfires, landslides, and strong winds. These are ones that we see pretty commonly. In general, though, they don't cause that much damage. Nothing like a Cascadia subduction zone will. So there's estimated impacts from that. More than 43,000 casualties, 2.4 million homeless here on the West Coast, greater than 80,000 buildings destroyed. Communications in general will be knocked out for a long period of time. That means no telephones, cell phones, or internet. Expect a month to a year to get water and sewer services depending on your location. Bridges will come down. A half a year to a whole year to partially restore highways. Greater than $25 billion in damages and economic loss. And 80% of schools can expect to have some structural failure. So what are some of those impacts from the more common local hazards? Winter storms tend to be region-wide, but relatively short duration. And in general, there's little infrastructure that gets damaged. Flooding also tends to be localized, short duration, typically little infrastructure damage. Windstorms tend to be region-wide, again, short duration. There may be some infrastructure damage due to that, such as power lines down. And wildfire tends to be relatively localized, short duration, and there may be some infrastructure damage along with that. So be ready to be on your own for many days. You will have to rely on your own resources for food, water, first aid, and shelter. And during those times, you will be providing assistance to those around you who are hurt or need help. So some of the things to consider is shelf-stable foods, first aid supplies, and then materials that you can make a shelter with. You can be a big part of preparing your community. Doing so reduces the impact of any disasters that do occur. It really is critical that everyone prepares, because people that are prepared then are less of a burden on the rest of the community. And it's most effective when it addresses what makes this community unique and engages everybody. So know your local hazards, alert systems, and warning systems. Any evacuation routes and sheltering plans that may be in place. Make sure to take care of the specific needs that you and the people around you will need. For instance, if you have anybody with disabilities or medical conditions. Learn how to evaluate the situation that you find yourself in. And protect yourself, because make sure that you always, always, always take care of yourself first. Build your kits, one for your car, a go bag, and 2 weeks ready at home. Then make plans and practice them. So these are some recommended items for a car breakdown kit. Think about a few years ago when we had the big ice and snow event and all those people that were stuck on Canyon Road through the tunnels for hours on end. This is the kind of thing that will help you through. So shovel, water, high energy snacks, sleeping bag or blanket, and then some basic car emergency supplies, jumper cables, fire extinguisher, tow rope, etc. Then there's the go bag. The go bag gets you from where you are to where you want to be. So if you are at work, something happens and you find yourself having to walk home, this will have the supplies in it that you can rely on to get you home. Enough for about 3 days. Big thing is water. You can carry it, but it's 8 pounds per gallon. Some means to filter or purify means that you don't have to carry so much water, and you can literally then drink clean water out of a mud puddle. Energy foods, first aid supplies for you to tend to other people, and any medications that you need for yourself. Some tools, flashlights, a wind-up radio or radio with extra batteries so that you can get information about what's going on. The ability to build a fire. Sheltering materials such as poncho or a small tarp. A blanket to keep yourself warm. And any personal protective equipment that you can pack along that will help protect you as you come across different situations on your trip home. Also think about how you will carry this stuff. A backpack is great, but by the time you get all of these materials into it, it can get pretty heavy. How long will you actually be able to carry that on your back? A rolling airline luggage bag will pack a lot of this stuff, and you don't have to actually carry it. You just drag it along behind you. So think about that. 2 weeks ready. So keep in mind that utilities, roads, phones, all of these things are likely to be out for a long time after a disaster has occurred. Prepare yourself to be self-sufficient for 14 days, at least 2 weeks. What do you put in it? Similar to what's in a go bag, just more of it. For example, what's in your pantry? Water, again, 1 gallon per person per day is going to get really heavy really quick. So some water to start with, but some means to filter or purify. Put all of these supplies into a portable container and place them somewhere where you can get to them. Consider an outdoor shed, an outdoor shop, garage, something like that. If you put all of this stuff in the basement and the house collapses, you can't get at it. Also, make sure to include any medications and sanitation needs. So these are some examples of containers that you might consider using. 5-gallon buckets are great. They're portable, and you can use those buckets for personal hygiene and sanitation needs. Or a large rolling garbage can. Again, it's relatively portable, and you can get a lot in there. A family disaster plan. Think about where will you meet everybody. Have an out-of-state contact that everybody locally that you know of can check in with. It's not uncommon that long distance will work, but local phone calls will not. What if you have to go someplace for a period of time? What kind of materials or sheltering could you do? How will you get out of your home, your workplace, or your school? Remember, always have 2 ways out. And what route and alternates would you need to get from where you are to where you want to be? For instance, if you're at work and you need to get home, what route will you take? If you're across the river, which bridges are likely to still be standing? And do you have transportation? Can you use it? Are the roads open enough? And then finally, have you ever actually practiced this plan? So we have covered CERT roles and responsibilities, some elements of disasters, preparing, and then some of the kits. Thank you for your attention.